Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're going to give everyone just a minute to log in and we'll get started. Okay, I think it's time for us to get started. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Anna Wright. I'm the head of our insurance vertical at LinkedIn, focusing on our sales solutions. And today's session is hosted by Hearsay and LinkedIn for our financial services and insurance customers. You'll hear about industry trends and recommendations on how your advisors and agents can use data for retention, referrals, and relationships through social selling and ultimately deep sales. I will be joined by two amazing women of our industry, Amanda Pites from Hearsay and Taryn Paul from LinkedIn. They both work every day with companies like yours. So get ready for those practical takeaways to put into action immediately. So let's get started. Times, they are a-changing. Over the past 3 years, financial services and insurance selling has fundamentally changed because buyers have changed. The great reshuffle, as we call it, continues, and people change jobs looking for greater flexibility. Virtual and hybrid working means that virtual selling is here to stay. In fact, only 5% of the entire buyer's journey is now done with a sales professional. As customers and prospects find new jobs, your data and your advisor's understanding of their opportunities quickly becomes stale. How can they keep up with who is who in their portfolio? This has led to a 30% drop in response rates post-pandemic as buyers are inundated with the wrong messages at the wrong time. But yet, with all of these changes and all of these challenges, top performers find a way to thrive. So let's dig in to see how. These top performers are using data and technology to work smarter, not harder. They focus on relationships to drive retention and referrals. They recognize buying signals to engage with the right message at the right time. And they replicate success by measuring and then optimizing. So today we're going to take you through a data journey from a tops down and a bottoms up approach. Amanda will start with the tops down. How do financial services and insurance companies use real-time data to drive organizational value in a scalable way? Then Taryn is going to talk about how your agents can tap into tools to convert that data into real business efficiently and effectively. This multi-pronged approach works. So Amanda, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Pites, Digital Transformation Lead at Hearsay. So let's take a look at the enterprise view. Let's go to the next slide. So look, data is a powerful tool, and it can help to shape and make better decisions. But the first step to understanding and make sense of what you're given is really to look at data, and it's one of the biggest challenges. But look, data does not have to be a big challenge. I work with and in data all day and deal with thousands and thousands of rows and cells of information. While I know that this seems like a daunting task, but to me, this is actually my passion. I love to take unstructured pieces and to make it make sense. Data is what I like to say is like Legos. I love putting pieces together to make a structure. And having the right tools and applications to ingest it, make sense of the unstructured manner will be powerful. And of course, having partners like us from Hearsay and LinkedIn to help equip you with the right tools is already a great start. So listen, making data or making sense of the data that we have, we also have to talk a little bit around data quality. Cleaning and quality checking for inconsistencies will be foundational to drawing conclusions. Generally, I like to think that there are only a few data points that really matter, and it's essential to clear the noise to get to the right fields to tell that story. And finally, to make it all make sense, the key is to make data work for you, is to actually create models and frameworks that can take a whole bunch of unstructured pieces, Lego pieces, into one that can help you drive actionable steps and decision making. When we begin to look at data on an enterprise level, user segmentation, the next slide, is one of our key models. So before I dive into user segmentation, let me ask the group a question. I have a little poll here. So the question here is, how do you segment your social media users? So tell me what you think. We have a number of answers here, from connections, frequency of publishing, engagement, profile completeness, or we just don't segment, or none of the above. So how are we doing with the answers? Frequency of engagement. Okay, and so I have the top two responses are 46% of we don't segment them at all, or frequency of engagement. Wow, okay, and I also see 3% for profile completeness and 11% for publishing. These are really interesting responses. So I love to actually talk a little bit more around user segmentation. So it's actually a variety of data points. So user segmentation is how we help our clients with understanding social behaviors and how their users are leveraging social platforms. The social selling journey has really shifted, as Anna mentioned, in the last years, and has brought an increased personalization. That how we behave socially now is something that we also need to be aware of. So some of the questions that our clients, such as yourself, ask me around behavioral analytics is, how can we assess the maturity for an active user on our program? What are the growth trends across these behaviors? And who are our top users and leaders of the programs? So look, these questions don't need to keep you up at night. And these are often challenges that a lot of social programs actually face. However, the good news is that these questions do not need to be that difficult, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit around some of the important factors that we take into user segmentation. So before I go into the specific social behaviors, I want to talk a little bit around some of the 3 important factors that we have to keep in mind. So first is really around timing. So remember, behaviors are taught and incorporated into one's routine over time. It is often not an immediate change. And this is really important to note, specifically in user segmentation, because when we look at how users behave, we actually look at it over averages over several months period. And the reason for that is to really ensure that that behavior or that social norm is actually instilled. The second is identifying the right behaviors that give you a holistic picture. It has to really be the right mix of interactions and communications that drive analytics. And lastly, identifying the personas and maturity levels will help you drive towards results. So now I'm really excited to go on to the next slide to talk a little bit around the primary user behaviors. So at Hearsay, we have built a user maturity model, or a UMM, to calculate social behaviors in a holistic way by analyzing individual social metrics over time and quantifying through a standardized score, which we then use to evaluate the health and maturity of each and every user. So one of the first things to think about in user segmentation is, what behaviors as an enterprise do I care about? So I'm going to help you a little bit to define what that criteria looks like, as these are the criteria that we have and we are using in our UMM model. So I'll start from the top right. So number one is having an on-brand presence. It is so crucial today to having the right profiles on social platforms because it really helps to increase that brand awareness. Ensuring, for example, your LinkedIn profiles are updated, titles are updated, descriptions, even a head picture are just some of the first steps to establishing a social presence. Second, your voice through publishing content. I often see our users who tend to publish campaigns that have been pre-approved by their companies. However, due to maturity scores, we often recommend that publishing should be more on the customized and more of on a personal level. Our Hearsay's content services team often says any publishing that deals with dogs and children get the most engagement, which is true. I also have a Instagram for my dog as well. 3, being responsive and an active listener go hand in hand. Being responsive is essentially incorporating social reciprocity, and having that mutual exchange helps to build stronger relationships. And oftentimes that results into leads, referrals, which are in second, third connections. And also being an active listener is actually really important to having the right social signals that prompts you to like a post, to congratulate someone, and to essentially, how do you engage effectively, which actually was a second answer to our poll earlier, with most people saying engagement is being one of the top primary behaviors. Fourth, I wanted to talk a little bit about leveraging the right channels. Not only do we need to have a brand presence, but also be on the platforms to speak directly with your prospects. I often get this question from our clients. Well, Amanda, what platforms do you recommend our advisors and agencies use? The answer is typically 1, wherever it is compliant for your company, of course, and 2, where your customers are. 5, social messaging and DMs. When we think about social, it is a one-to-many communication platform. Getting a message across multiple groups of prospects and potential clients, and then transitioning to DMs and messaging is the foundation to building a one-to-one relationship where that prospect is no longer a lead. And then 6, nurturing your network. It is ever more important to not only grow your network, but also nurture the connections that you have made, to reach out to people that you have connected with throughout your career. And lastly, getting your network involved with your personal life and what you're doing in your community will strengthen this whole wheel, will really strengthen your entire relationship. So now that you have learned what social behaviors are crucial to determining user segmentation for an enterprise, I want to talk a little bit around some of the best practices that we have seen our clients do to improve the outcome and ultimately drive bottom line for their businesses. One is always learning. So remember, behaviors I mentioned is always teachable, and it can be instilled through training, particularly around a bespoke training curriculum that targets specific social behaviors we want users to get better at. 2 is the use of social signals. You'll hear later on about our partnership and how Hearsay and LinkedIn work together to build a better social experience, one that really helps you to drive that engagement and to build stronger relationships. 3, gamification. Our clients get so revved up over gamification. Doing things such as establishing a leaders boards or best in program, best in breed to show what users have been doing have really helped spark that competitiveness nature. And also having the right content. Whether it is through customized content, corporate campaigns, or library posts, having that right message or getting help from an AI in our Content Plus platform to really help make that recommendation on what to publish based on preferences and interests will really help to set you apart in creating your own personal voice. So I want to bring user segmentation and social behaviors that you've heard with showing some real statistics from some of our top insurance companies and how social has truly been a key driver in ROI, value, and bottom line increasing premiums and revenues. So I'm excited to share in this analysis, we used our user maturity model, the UMM, and the quantification of specific social behaviors you saw in the previous slide to start looking at analyzing trends and correlations and seeing where those returns are. So some of the key behaviors that's really interesting in the insurance space that we've identified are really around finding the behaviors of those that are superstar leads, that are our top quotes generator, that also are the agencies that have or bring in the highest premiums. So I want to share with you what we found that are the actual behaviors of what these superstar groups are doing. So for example, in the superstar leads, these agencies we found were leveraging an omni-channel approach to expanding their social presence, oftentimes having LinkedIn as their primary and another social channel to expand their reach. For the top quotes generation, one of the key behaviors was actually growing and nurturing connections. Agencies that were connecting with prospects and clients generated 3 times more quotes activity. And for premiums, one of the key behaviors that drove higher premiums was actually being responsive on social. Leveraging social signals and engaging with your networks allowed agencies to really drive 7.3 times more premiums. So look, these are very compelling numbers around social behaviors and how it truly affects the bottom line, and why companies such as yourself have a duty to support this channel. So I'll let Taryn take it away in talking to you a little bit more around how data and what it looks like for the field level.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I'm Taryn Paul, the lead for our insurance vertical at LinkedIn. And Amanda has given us a great top-down view into how the enterprise is using data to drive results. On the flip side, I'm going to share how the field is using similar data to drive their business. So at LinkedIn, we have analyzed the habits of top performers across all customer-facing roles within financial services. And our data shows that they prioritize research. Forget hitting the phones, sending out endless unread mass emails, chasing leads that won't go anywhere. Top performing agents and relationship managers know that their time is better spent digging deeper. This is why 76% of North America top performers say they always do their research before reaching out to prospects. This work behind the scenes means that they're finding the right leads rather than just any lead. So let's continue to examine what these top performers are doing differently. There are 3 habits that top performers are doing day in and day out that we believe are both teachable and repeatable. First, they focus on the accounts and the clients with the most white space. They're finding and prioritizing clients with the real potential, devoting time to finding growth trajectories or using insights such as headcount growth or funding announcements as signals to their readiness to buy. These folks are the ones that know which 20% of their business is going to deliver 80% of their target. Second thing that they do, identifying buyers and clients when they are ready to engage. Finding the right potential customer is one thing, right? But approaching them at the right time is another thing altogether. This is another muscle that top performers are training. Shockingly, 95% of our potential buyers are not ready to buy today. So, leaning on tools and technology that can deliver buyer intent signals can help you engage when they are ready to buy, and this is crucial. And lastly, they go beyond shared connections to find hidden allies or strategic referrals. This is one that is especially pronounced in the financial services and insurance world. What about the network of a top performing rep? What does that look like? And how can they leverage and monetize that network? At the heart of any top performer's new business strategy is, in this business, a network that is built on relationships. So how often are producers tapping into this to get referrals from their existing clients? Relationships are everything, and there are just thousands of introductions out there for every single person just waiting to be made. So in a nutshell, top performing reps are flipping the script. For them, relationship building is an input to the process, not an outcome. Conventionally speaking, the relationship part, sometimes comes after the sale is made. However, we're seeing that the reverse is true, especially for those that consistently overperform. So what if everybody at your company could behave like a top performer? One way to get there is, of course, by using scaled sales technology that helps your entire team deepen their relationship building, like Sales Navigator. You were expecting this part, and it's true that more sales tech does not automatically transform you into a top performer. As we saw, sales tech stacks are already teetering, right? With 13 different tools on average making up the average tech stack. More tech does not equal better outcomes. Actually, the opposite is often true, as many technologies are encouraging the wrong type of spray and pray tactics. What you're here to say is, if your business is built on relationships, lean into the relationship building technology. So the question is, can you shift the entire performance curve of your organization? If you can go to the next slide, great, thanks. By thinking smarter, we're thinking bigger, and there are the results to prove it. So that brings us to the deep sales approach through Sales Navigator, which helps top performing reps stay on top. And for everybody else, it helps them shift the curve and gives them access to customer data and insights that will automate their prospecting, constantly stay in front of everything that's important to their clients, ultimately helping them build better relationships at scale. And there are 3 elements to this deep sales approach: data, actionable insights, and habits every day that drive outcomes. So let me dig a little bit deeper and explain what we mean by these. Deep data. The LinkedIn network is the most comprehensive and accurate set of professional and company data in the world. There are over 12 million financial services buyers on the LinkedIn platform. But just for fun, I'd love to hear what all of you think. What percentage, so we're going to do a little poll, what percentage of these 12 million buyers have changed roles in the past 12 months? Do we think it's 6%, 14%, 21%, 32%, or 41% have changed jobs in the last 12 months? Curious to see what you think. All right, the results are in. So 50% of you said that 32% of the financial services customers have changed jobs in the last 12 months. Just behind that, it looks like we've got 21%, which actually is the correct answer. So you all were very, very close. Great job. 21% of Fin's buyers have changed jobs in the past year. So the question is, how are your advisors and agents and client managers keeping track of their portfolio when almost a fourth have changed jobs in the last 12 months? This movement continues to happen year over year, and it creates both risk and opportunity. With the LinkedIn Sales Navigator tool, your team gets real-time insights into this decision maker mobility: when they're moving jobs, where they're going, location, promotion information, and your team is alerted about this the moment that the movement happens. This is incredibly valuable information in reinforcing relationships and exploring new selling opportunities. Financial services buyers are actively engaging with specific content on LinkedIn. Actually, the most trending topics of the last year were technology, business management, and finance in the economy, which may or may not be surprising for some of you. This said, data and insights can reinforce these deep relationships between buyers and agents and client managers. Because once we can understand what our clients are reading and consuming and posting online, we have an opportunity to engage them more strategically about the content that they care about. This level of insight and relationship building gives us the opportunity to build new connections where we can introduce ourselves to prospective clients through somebody that we both know, a referral or common connection, which is so important in this business. This helps us to build a deeper connection. And finally, through deep sales, especially with Sales Navigator, you have a chance to monetize your social assets to drive more referrals and ultimately deeper relationships. This leads to unlimited client growth opportunities. And with that, I'll pass it back to Anna.
And as she said, of course, we cannot talk about unlocking client growth opportunities through communication channels without talking about compliance. So if you'll click forward, if you or your advisors are concerned about using LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, fear not. LinkedIn and Hearsay are integrated so that you can unlock the power of deep sales while ensuring scaled compliance, keeping your firm well within your risk tolerance. So with that, I want to thank Amanda and Taryn for sharing those top-down and bottoms-up strategies to use data in social selling and deep sales for both financial services and insurance. We have seen great success with this combination of tools and tactics to harness data. Social selling and deep sales mean that your agents, your advisors, your producers can convert data into retention, referrals, and ultimately those all-important relationships. So we have a little bit of time, a few minutes here to answer questions that you might have of the panelists. And I want to encourage everyone to go to your chat and type in questions that you might have there. Amanda and Taryn have offered to stay on to see if there are any questions that we can help to answer. There was one question that came through during Amanda's section, which was how do we start a user segmentation process for our organization? And there was a comment about the difficulty of getting buy-in. So maybe you could help us to think about that user segmentation from your section.
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, Anna. Thank you. And thank you to the audience for that question. So one of the first steps when I think about baselining or actually starting user segmentation is really understanding where your field is in social maturity and also defining the goals of where you want the program to be. Once you understand and have baselined and know where the goals are, then I recommend using the user maturity model with the 6 social behaviors, the 6-prong approach, rounded approach, I think it was. Basically, we have the ability to capture all of those data points from LinkedIn and also from Sales Navigator, where we would then quantify each of the most important behaviors, where we then start to tier out where your users are based on tiers 1 through 6, 1 being consistently mature, extremely mature users, and all the way down to not so mature. So that's one way is how I would start to look at how do we kickstart user segmentation. And then I think the other question was regarding buy-in. So this is actually really important because when we get buy-in, we actually have to correlate the value and ROI that's directly linked with the program and your data. So exactly in line with the example that you saw earlier that I gave about one of our top insurance agencies or one of our top companies, that's how we actually get buy-in from across the entire organization and different lines of businesses. Is really when we can start to correlate the value between ROI and social user segments, that's when we can actually start to get executive and others and many others across the entire organization part of our story and part of our team.
Great.
Great question.
We have a question that came in to the chat that says, any recommendations on how to get a seasoned sales force using social? This is new to our organization and adoption is low so far. Maybe you could each give a little perspective. Taryn, would you like to kick us off here?
Sure. So I think any implementation of social requires a couple of things. It's foundational to start with a well thought out program that was developed by both you and your organization and your partners. It's essential that you have the governance and the buy-in top down in your organization to make sure that this program is successful and ultimately hold the rest of the team accountable. Where we've seen programs go really well here at LinkedIn is when all of the right executive teams, stakeholders, marketing, sales, operations, revenue, all come together, even sales effectiveness, to kind of join the mission and share back with their teams and each lean into their part of developing this program to make sure that it's a success. So I would say that's probably the number one thing that I would recommend. Amanda?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, Taryn. So when you don't have buy-in, which is exactly also the last question too, when you don't have buy-in from your corporate stakeholders, from the leadership of the organization, that certainly is going to be key. You know, I've seen programs succeed time and time again when we have the right structure in place. And I think, you know, the rest of that is really just about around plumbing, you know, pipes and plumbing and just getting the right keys into implementation. But I definitely think from a hearsay perspective, we have certain APIs that we have connected into with LinkedIn that we seamlessly are able to capture a lot of different data points. We have multiple APIs from that perspective. So I think, you know, it's a matter of making sure that we also are partnering together as well, not just for our clients, but also for making sure that we have that strong partnership between hearsay and LinkedIn as well. I think that's probably one of the most important key. And how do we make sure that we serve our clients and make sure that they are getting the most out of their experience?
One last thing I will add is to define what this program's success actually means to your organization. So think about what you're trying to solve for. Is it net new client growth? Is it retention? Think about the core value that you're probably already prioritizing for FY23 and FY24 and tie your social program and all the actions that you take behind it to that initiative.
Great. I just want to say there was a couple questions in regards to costs, and so we'll follow up on those individually. I don't want anybody to feel like we're not answering that question, but we will follow up with that individually. Taryn, there's a question here that is, what is the difference between my LinkedIn profile and Sales Navigator and a Sales Navigator for agents of all kinds, or best practices there?
Yes, so the best way to think about the difference, LinkedIn and your LinkedIn profile is the foundation of any of this, right? So it's imperative and important that we start with a strong foundation. LinkedIn.com is where your agents and client managers will go, and really all of us, to maintain your network, to maintain your profile, and to post and share on LinkedIn out to their network. When we think about Sales Navigator, that is really the tool that is designed to engage with clients and prospects that you know, but also that you don't know. because it opens up visibility to the entire network. And instead of on LinkedIn.com, as many of us know, you've got every connection that you've ever made, right? Customers, colleagues, friends, neighbors, all of these people and all this info is kind of compiled together in LinkedIn, which is great for networking. However, it's not necessarily designed to help one drive their business forward. So everything that you see in Sales Navigator, all of these buyer intent signals are pushed to you because this is more of a growth-focused platform designed for prospecting. Everything that your agents and client managers see in Sales Navigator is specific to the people that they want to talk to and the people that are in their book of client business. Hopefully that helps.
Great. Amanda, here's one that's also back to your segmentation. It says once you segment your users, how do you use that to improve your results?
Great question. So once we actually have the results of segmenting users into different tiers, the best way to improve results is actually through various strategies. One is we partner directly with our clients to understand what their goals are. And one of the ways that we help those goals is through a bespoke tailored tier training model, where specific training, again, remember when we talked about all of these behaviors are teachable. So there are training courses that actually helps the field and help the user with getting better at specific behaviors we want them to get better at. So I'll give you an example. In one of our tiers, the users don't do anything across social. They only have a profile, but they have never really published and they don't really engage. So one of the trainings that we will provide to them is, okay, how do you make that first post? What do you post? How do you make that first campaign post as well? Just make it easier. So that's just one of the ways where we can start to have those social behaviors instilled in their day-to-day routine. And another way that we've also helped too with a lot of our clients is really getting the right outreach. We have clients that are on the lower tier. We want to make sure that, look, you're supported, you understand the value of social. And then also another thing I spoke a little bit about is around gamification. Everyone is very competitive. We are all competitive, especially our agents and with our book of business. We are extremely competitive. When we start seeing someone else doing better or getting more engagements or getting more likes and more comments, we're like, oh my God, what did they post that got them 500 engagements? We're like, oh, how do we also have that? How do I also get to do that as well too? So I definitely get competitive when I go on my Instagram and I see posts about my dog, and I try to post them onto LinkedIn or to other platforms. Like, how do I get more posts? How do I get more likes? So definitely you bring out that competitive nature through leaderboards.
That's great. And as we have just a couple more minutes left, there was one, maybe Taryn, this is for you, which is, what do you mean when you say buying signals?
That's a great question. So buying signals is really just a collection of digital actions that can determine someone's potential interest or likelihood to engage. So for example, if a client views your profile, or if they're researching your company, or if they're connecting with a lot of other folks similar to you or at your company, they're more likely to respond to your message. So that helps you to reach out with the right message at the right time.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we are just at time. So I wanted to thank you, Taryn, thank you, Amanda, and thank you all for joining our session in regards to using data to make your financial services and insurance company more successful using social selling and deep sales. Amanda, Taryn, and I will be available if you have any questions and you would like to reach out to us, certainly on LinkedIn, or your relationship managers at either Hearsay or LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your time and your participation, and we look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.